Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining today's stream. Welcome, Jamie, Santiago, Mike, J-Trade, Roberto, Vicky, and Mac. Thank you guys so much for joining today. So far, the market is down a little bit, which kind of reminds me of yesterday's situation. The market had a lot of selling pressure right at open, but it exploded right up to end the day. So either way, we're set for an interesting week. Some important news to be aware of is that overall retail data declined over the past month. So retail sales dropped worse than expected. They dropped around 1.1% in July, and everyone was only expecting a drop of around 0.3%. And this is all coming from CNBC, but that's important to know, and the market definitely didn't like that. And I just feel like we're starting to have maybe some increased fears in the market right now. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Increased fears in the market. The Taliban is having that weird news in Afghanistan. I learned yesterday apparently Afghanistan is not in the Middle East, I learned, but we got some comments on the YouTube video, but apparently flights are resuming from Kabul, which is like the capital of Afghanistan. So hopefully these flights can kind of keep going, get people out of there again. And then keep in mind, Michael Burry came out, or some reports came out anyways yesterday, saying that he actually was betting against the ARK funds and saying that he was still short on his Tesla position. And man, just looking at Tesla, not looking good again today, dipping all the way down to 670 after falling below that $700 support yesterday. Really not looking good on the daily chart either, with Tesla posting some red candles after touching this blue trend line a few times. Sorry, but overall, not looking good right now for Tesla, for the overall market. Kathy Wood is actually on CNBC here. It said they're reporting that Kathy Wood says Michael Burry doesn't understand innovation space after he bets against ARK funds. So that's funny that she says that, but it's just hilarious. And she says, though, in quotes, to his credit, Michael Burry made a great call based on his fundamentals and recognized the calamity brewing in the housing/mortgage market. I do not believe that he understands the fundamentals that are creating explosive growth and investment opportunities in the innovation space, though, Wood tweeted on Tuesday morning. So very interesting stuff. It seems like a war of the investors here as Kathy Wood kind of hits back at Michael Burry's position, I should say, short position on her fund.
All right, so yeah, it's definitely an interesting take, and I'm curious what's going to happen over the next couple years. It's a very unique situation with Tesla and Kathy's fund and all that stuff. But welcome Sean, Justin, Alex, Mindy, Jay, Corbin, and Maine to the stream. We're set for a big day. We have Maine saying, what do you guys think of UPST with that share offering news? Any levels to look for? So I saw that they announced a private offering of $575 million worth of convertible senior notes. So really, it's not a good sign. It's good for the company for the long term, but normally news like this makes a stock fall in the short term. So normally it's pretty bearish, of course not always, but like we saw with SPCE when they announced that share offering, the stock tanked. So definitely be on the lookout for that. Sean said he bought a SPY put and a Moderna put yesterday for a swing. So looking pretty good, Sean. Looks pretty solid heading into the markets open today. And then we have Jay saying, any thoughts on Tesla? So, I really like it for the long term, but I don't like it at these levels. I just don't feel great buying Tesla at 670. Honestly, I'm really trying to sell a put when the stock falls and hopefully get a sign that way. But either way, even if I don't get a sign by selling some puts, I'm totally fine with just just getting other stocks like DraftKings, Boeing, Corsair, Redfin, Zoom, Palantir, and stuff like that. So, I like it for the long term, but just not at these levels.
Yeah, and yesterday and for the past couple of weeks, it's just been kind of consolidating there around that that $700 support level. And then we finally fell back through there to the downside. Not a good sign. We're actually failing to get above the blue trend line here, which has been a very long-term level for Tesla. So also not a good sign there. I personally will be looking at them to go to the downside and maybe go down and touch 650 over the next couple of days, but definitely have it on the radar. Not moving good right now. And with the overall market falling, it's just really not helping Tesla at all. So bad signs out of them right now. And it's just going to be, I think, a bad downwards move here. But I think that like after this next move, we might get a move back up. And who knows? I'm not sure that we'll be able to get all the way back down to the 550 support, but maybe we'll come back down and retest like 600 or one of these big levels where a lot of buyers will start to come back in.
Good stuff. So, Tom, we have Neo down big today. Or, I mean, it's not as big as yesterday, but still like 5% already. You know, it's pretty big.
They're getting actually pretty far down, Mike, falling below a lot of these key support levels. They had a big support level actually right around $40, and they just fell below that. They're still tanking off pretty drastically. And man, just looking at like the 5-day or like the past 5 days on the 15-minute chart, just almost like straight down movement from $46 the other day. I mean, man, they really failed to break out. Those earnings definitely hurt them, and just not good moves right now. And looking at the daily, man, Mike, like what are we looking at coming up? I would say let's go back to the 15-minute chart. I mean, man, I'm going to be looking for like $37 even. And then, man, after that, we haven't even been there in forever, all the way back like to May. So I'll be looking for like 36 after that, it looks like.
Yeah, it's a great time to sell puts on Neo. You know, it could be a win-win if you don't mind picking it up for the long term, you know?
Yeah, definitely. You know, they're a good company, and they are based in China, which is a little bit of a worry to a lot of people. But whenever you look at Neo, you know, they have pretty decent sales already, and they have kind of already gotten started. So I like that. And I was really hoping for them to start to go up like over the last couple of weeks, but man, this is a bad like past few trading days for them. But I will definitely be looking at shares and looking at selling puts, like you just said, because I think that'll be a great thing to do as they're falling down, and just as these premiums get higher and higher. It'll just get better. It'll get better odds for us. So I hope it ends up working out, and hopefully we end up getting some shares somewhere around $30. I think that would be amazing.
For sure. All right, Tom, do you have any other stocks you're watching like heading into today, or like anything notable? Like how's like Baidu doing?
Baidu and some of these Chinese stocks have been moving pretty strange the past couple of days, actually to the downside. And looking at, Baidu's actually looking terrible, Mike. I mean, I know Baba's been looking pretty bad, falling back down too, but man, they're actually breaking support, looking really bad on the daily. I mean, once they fell below 150, it was game over for Baidu, it looks like. Man, and just like what we're seeing with NIO, just continuous like falls to the downside. I know China had some bad economic news that Vicky posted in the chat for us last night, but man, I mean, I know that the China news will definitely be affecting these stocks, so be really careful with them. And you know, I think that we had a feeling that maybe this China news was finally over, but now we have this bad economic news come out and all this stuff with the Taliban, and it's just like, man, is the news ever going to stop right now?
Yeah, I know what you mean. And then I'm also looking at like Zoom to maybe sell some puts. It's dipping down pretty big, so it's also on my watch list. And then we have Sean saying, just sold my place for a $700 profit. There we go, Sean. Love to see it. And then we have Peter saying it's mirroring China's FXI ETF. So FXI is that China ETF. How's it looking? Let's see.
Yeah, looking pretty bad. Actually gapped down a little bit today.
Yeah, interesting. Hunter said FUTU and Roblox. Yeah, let's take a look. FUTU, it is, what's it doing? FUTU is down a little bit. It's actually down 5%, which is kind of a lot. So IV's creeping up. Definitely good watch there. Roblox. I know a lot of people have been playing this one. It's down like 5.5% today, which is pretty big. I mean, everything we look at is down 5%, Tom. What's going on?
I know it's true. And man, it's a terrible day for like the overall market. We got Tesla down, Neo down, Baba's in the red, CHPT, even like Boeing, Enphase, Qualcomm. I mean, man, the whole watch list is in the red. I only have two stocks green. CLOV and /GC, which is gold, so don't even really count that one as a stock. But man, Clove is looking pretty good actually today, holding that $8 support from yesterday and actually flying back up today in the middle of or at open. So maybe CLOV will be the play to, you know, the kind of play for the next few days. They hit off that $8 support yesterday, and maybe we'll get a move back up towards $10, or maybe we'll finally break $10 and get a nice move to the upside. I know a lot of people have been waiting on Clove for a while, but seems like it's like the only stock moving that's green today on my watch list. And it looks like Moderna actually just turned green, 0.3%. Looks like they might be bouncing off that 350 support. And man, it looks like they actually hit 349, 350 pretty dead even. Now we're seeing green. So we might get a little pop over the next couple of days, just given how much we were down. I mean, man, we had like consecutive 15% red days.
All right, so we have Target like bleeding off right to start the open, and it did the same thing yesterday, and it came right back up.
Yeah, it did. And we have those earnings coming up tomorrow. So it's going to be a very strange next couple days for Target. That's for sure. And just like you said, yesterday it did the same thing, ended up going even higher than where it opened at. So it could definitely do that again today. I would not be surprised if we hit somewhere around this 258 level. Looks like we definitely had a lot of consolidation around there yesterday. So watch for 258 and maybe we'll get a move like we had yesterday. But I'll be honest, I doubt we'll see another move like this, but man, I wouldn't be surprised. The market's been so crazy lately, and I don't know like what's been going on, like with all these like catalysts coming out, like with the Taliban and China and all this stuff. I was going to expect the market to go down yesterday, but I could not believe the end of day we had, how the SPY just like recovered all the way back up and then some to new highs. Like, man, I was kind of blown away.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we have G saying Clove Smoothbrain Ape has entered the chat. Well, how's Clove doing, Tom?
Looks like it turned around now that we talked about it. I mean, man, as soon as we highlighted it, it started to fall off that $8 and like 55 cent resistance level up here. Definitely like looking good today compared to a lot of other stocks, but now we are actually in the red about 1%. So not looking the best now, but it was running earlier. So maybe watch for another run over the next few minutes or maybe over the next hour or so. But I will say looks better than a lot of stocks, but it is going down right now.
All right, and then we have Spacely with all caps saying, good morning, hit that like button. Let's go. So yeah, thank you guys so much for joining. If you like the streams, it would help Tom and myself out so much if you guys could hit that like button. We'd really appreciate it. It only takes like 2 seconds. And then we have R saying, Moderna, please. Let's take a look. Moderna is up a little bit. Looks like we are going from red to green, and that's a pretty solid open so far, Tom.
Yeah, it is pretty good. And, we hit 350 just a day ago. We hit 360 this morning and held it this morning. It looks pretty good. It's momentous. It's up through a lot of these SMAs as well, up through that high of yesterday. Just looks really solid to me. It looks really nice. I would really watch out for a resistance at 390. Looks like that's going to be a huge level to look for, especially today. But I would say we have a pretty good shot, I think, of getting up there. Just be careful. It's a very high price stock, so $7 isn't the biggest move for it, but should still be good nonetheless. I could also see it hitting $400 and then going down, but 390 is definitely going to come first. And we hit off of that a few days ago, like 6 or 7 times. So really watch out for 390.
Gotcha. And then, I can't help myself, but, look at these stocks like Baidu. They're selling off so much. And I know that, the situation with China is, it's pretty unique, but, these stocks were at good levels a couple weeks ago, and they're just still falling. It's just, it's a very, interesting play because you have some unique risks that come along with these stocks.
Yeah, you do actually. And that's just, it's part of the game, like with these Chinese stocks, but it's very unfortunate to see though. No one can really control the China news or the Chinese data or anything. So it's really hard to look at that data and kind of give accurate judgments on it too. It's a lot different than than the Fed, which tries to be as transparent as possible. China on a lot of cases tries to be as much non-transparent as possible. So, it seems like it's a very hard situation with these stocks. And I would say though, they will turn around for them in the longer term, Mike, but it's just so scary to hold them. Man, I feel bad for everybody who was buying up BABA at the $200 support. It just keeps breaking below these lows and just keeps going lower and lower. I mean, I really hope that we can hold somewhere around 170. Seems like for the long term, 170 was a huge support level. So I hope that we can hold that. But man, with all these catalysts and stuff, I would not be surprised if we continued a little bit lower. And it's just getting a pretty depressing, honestly, looking at the charts for these Chinese stocks. And I'll be honest, I would not be too surprised if some of these stocks, maybe like Didi or something, ended up going off the market soon.
Yeah, it's looking pretty rough. All right, and then we have Maine saying Apple's creeping up. Let's take a look. Yeah, it is. It's holding its ground, definitely intraday.
Yeah, it is. And I can't believe it's actually popping back up the way it is. Looks pretty nice, actually, the way it came back up and hit 151. But it does look like it's coming back down off of that level. So really hard to say right now. Kind of stuck between the 500 and the 100 SMA. So It's pretty hard to tell for me right now, but I will say I am a little bit more bearish on it than anything, especially with the market going down the way it is. But man, the way that these stocks recovered, kind of like how Apple even recovered yesterday after falling off, it makes me feel like that could definitely happen again today. So it's really hard to say, but I would definitely lean more towards the downside, but it looks like it's going to be going up again.
Indeed. Let's see, just filling something out real quick. And then we have AJ asking about APL and AMC. So let's take a look. APL. So yeah, AAPL. It's holding its ground. It's down like 0.05%. We're getting close to that all-time high again. I know Tom just mentioned a couple things with Apple. Watch for that all-time high of like $151.70. And then AMC, it's just really not a play for me at all. But on a technical level, it is breaking out, and it has some pretty good momentum.
Yeah, and a lot of people have been eyeing it up since it hit that $30 support a few days ago. It's been a pretty big level off of $30, and ever since we hit that, we just pretty much staircased up, and we've had very positive momentum in the mornings pretty much every day since that day. So it's been looking pretty good, and I'm glad a lot of people have been kind of hopping back in and trading it. It looks like it's definitely been a good play, like for some quick momentum plays and stuff like that. I personally wouldn't be holding it overnight or anything, but I think if you get quick like in and out day trades on AMC, it can definitely work out, and looks like it's moving pretty well off the technicals. I'll say if we hold the 35 support today, looks pretty solid, and right now we're actually breaking above that double top of yesterday, right around 36.25. So I think it looks pretty solid right now even.
There we go. All right, and then we have Reflex saying, what do you think of SoFi? SOFI. Let's take a look. So it is holding its ground today. It's not bad for a dip buy at all. I think the best way to play it, though, would be like selling some puts.
Yeah, definitely sell some puts. Get a strike lower than where we are right now. Maybe something like $14, maybe like 13.50, somewhere down there could be pretty good. And it looks like that is close to support. Looks like the big support's at 12.50. So I really like $12.50 if you can get somewhere down there.
All right, and I'm just going through a couple of my scanners right now. It looks like most of the momentum, at least as of like this second, is like with Boeing to the downside. They're down like 2%. They're selling off pretty significantly right now. LOW also has some pretty big momentum to the downside, which is Lowe's, which is obviously a competitor to Home Depot. And then even OPEN is starting to break down.
Yeah, Open's not looking good either. Really starting to fall off. I know that Lowe's, it might be following Home Depot's actually at Home Depot's earnings report. That was a terrible earnings report Home Depot reported today, or I should say a good earnings report, but a terrible move on the chart. I mean, man, I heard they beat their EPS pretty good. Yeah, they beat the estimate by a little bit. I heard their revenue was good and everything like that, but man, just looking at it, it's just hard to look at some of these stocks like Home Depots and Lowe's and just expect them to keep going up. They were getting close to those all-time highs, and they had just been going up and up over the past year and over the past few months. So I'm not surprised to see it go down off these earnings, to be honest, Mike. And man, I remember whenever it was going up last time, everybody was waiting for it to start to fall off, and it finally did. But man, maybe now it looks like we're posting lower highs on the daily chart. Looks like it's getting pretty bad for Home Depot. We might get like a bad downwards movement for like the next couple weeks or maybe the next month with this type of move here.
Yep, we'll see what happens. But Neo's coming back up, which is great to see. Huge bounce right off that 37 support.
Yeah, it is actually hitting right off of there. That's a lot of strength coming back into it, Mike. That was a pretty bad sell-off this morning at open. It was not looking good either. Glad to see it coming back though. We are right up by this resistance that I see right around like 38.15. So watch out for that. We might hit right here and maybe go back down a little bit today or something. I don't know, but definitely look out for it. I like it how it bounced off 37, Mike. I think that's a pretty good sign. And, I don't think that it's going to necessarily go up tomorrow, but if we see a continued green momentum and it closes strong today, I think we definitely have a shot to maybe go back up after having a pretty bad past 5 trading days.
All right, and then we have Roberto saying, guys, could you check out Walmart? Absolutely. So this one had a wild ride this morning with their earnings. Intraday, they were all over the place. They popped up, fell down, popped up, fell down, and now they're back up. So they're holding their ground very well. I like the play, and I believe that Michael Burry had Walmart calls. I'm not 100% sure. I'll double check that in a minute, but overall I think it looks pretty good.
Yeah, it does look pretty decent actually. And Walmart's sitting here consolidating right at their all-time high or really close to it. Their all-time high is around like 153.66, of course, what it says here on the chart. But the real all-time high is somewhere right around like 150. You could say somewhere very, very close. We've bounced off of 150 a few times, and it looks like on the daily chart here, I mean, man, we're really consolidating at 150, and I would say it looks pretty strong. Like we're going to try to definitely go up and maybe retest like 153 or 154. But man, I will say I like the movement, Mike, and I think that we will be able to kind of get out of this level and maybe get a move back to the upside here over the next like few hours. And Walmart's a pretty slow mover, so don't expect it just to fly up or anything. But I think that we'll break 152 eventually today.
There we go. So yeah, it looks like Michael Burry is playing calls on Walmart, but he got in a little while ago. It's not like he's just getting in this morning. So calls on Walmart, puts on Tesla, calls on TBT, puts on TLT. So he has a lot of different plays actually. Facebook calls, CVS calls, Google calls, and then those ARC puts. So he has a lot of different things, which is interesting to see. And then if I check back on the scanners, it looks like Roku's holding its ground pretty well, Tom. What do you think of this potential bounce off this 350 support?
I think it could be pretty big, Mike. I mean, man, Roku's been getting killed ever since they hit 490. They've pretty much went straight down. Like, sure, there was one green day, or like one, I should say, good green day mixed in between there. But besides that, there's been nothing until today. I think that we could get a little bit of a bounce here, Mike. And it's just been going down so much. Would not be surprised if we saw a move. And I really like the way it's kind of having a lot of momentum today. And looks like the buyers are coming back in down there at that bottom. So I really like it. And I would definitely look for it maybe tomorrow. We are kind of at the high of day today, so I might not enter it right here, but I'll definitely like look for like a good spot to enter. Maybe if we consolidate around like 360 or even like 355, I think it would be a very good level.
Good stuff. All right, so Corsair's down like 2%. I'm just looking to find some momentum, especially given over like the past couple of days. It's been a little choppy to say the least, and as of right now, it looks like AMD is actually kind of leading the way with this movement to the upside.
Yeah, they are actually. It's moving pretty well. Well, they are 0.6% negative on the chart, but I'm glad to see them kind of popping up off of that terrible open they had. Like, man, it opened, they really dipped down, broke that like 106 support, and then kind of faked itself out and came right back up and ended up holding its ground. So that's a nice thing to see. And I hope AMD can. Did you say AMD or AMC?
I said AMC.
Oh, sorry. That's where I got confused. Yeah. I was like, man, it's not green. but yeah, AMD is looking pretty good today on its own. Like, I'm glad it's holding 106, which is good. But AMC is actually looking very solid, Mike. Well, I'm glad that this was the one you said. But yeah, going up through 37, looking really solid. I will say, though, the move is pretty large already. It's about the size of the move that we had yesterday. So I'd be a little careful with it. It might start to pull back here over the next few minutes, but man, this stock has been so strong the past few days off that 30 support. I wonder how many buyers are coming in. I know a lot of people that I talk to on a regular basis have been definitely eyeing it up around $30. So we'll definitely have to see how it ends up going, because it looks like it has definitely got a lot of momentum behind it. And man, I would not be surprised if we came up and retested $40 maybe.
All right. So then we have Maine saying, what's the deal with Apple? Why is it running so much? Any special news? So, Apple is a powerhouse, but I'm not seeing like any crazy news. I saw a couple different headlines that like their growth is not slowing. So like obviously that's great for their business, and that there's pretty good demand on the iPhone 13. But besides that, like I haven't seen any like major news, and they just have a ton of buyers coming into them, and we're getting pretty close to breaking that all-time high of like $151.70. We literally almost broke it like a couple minutes ago.
Yeah, we did. And I will say, though, I really like Apple. Like for the longer term, I think it'll be really good. For the short term, I feel like it might keep going up. It looks good that it keeps breaking these resistance levels, which is nice. And it was kind of consolidating for like a year and was failing to break out of 140. And we finally did, now that we got back into like August and September area here, kind of like where we hit last year and kind of started to slow down. So looks like this year we might start to get that accelerated growth during this time. And it's weird because we have all this negative news coming out with all this stuff going on and everything like that. So it's really hard to say, but just looking at it, Apple's just not, like you said, Mike, not slowing down, it looks like on the chart. And hopefully it just keeps going up for people who keep holding it. But man, I've just been eyeing up, the market falling. And it's just weird to see Apple just continue to fly up with all these weird catalysts going on, like the Taliban, and even like while the SPY and the QQQ are red, like Apple's still been flying up. So like you said, just I guess continued news that I keep seeing articles about the iPhone 13 having good support behind it and everything. So definitely good articles coming out about Apple. And then don't forget, they kind of talked about that iCar, a few months ago, and I wonder how that's kind of going to go over the next couple of years. Like, do you think they're actually going to get into that kind of sector, Mike, and try to get into those EV systems? Because it seems like with like Apple Maps and everything like that, or I think it's called Apple Maps. I can't remember the exact term for it, but it's pretty good. And you would think that they'd be able to kind of get some good like technology for like a self-driving concept or something similar.
Yeah, I mean they have so much money, tools, resources, and obviously technology. So I think it really makes sense for them to get into the space. Now, what I'm like hesitant about is like I don't think that they're just gonna like be the company that's like manufacturing and doing all that stuff. Like I feel like they'll end up partnering with someone or some other existing company to like kind of like split the work, obviously. And Apple would focus more on the technology side, and focus on what they're good at, and they'll let a different company focus on what they're good at with manufacturing and all that stuff. But we'll see what happens. Either way, they're a powerhouse company, and they're always growing and adapting, which is what really makes them special. So that's great to see. And then, Tom, I just wanted to point out the SPY right now. Like, it's kind of selling off.
Let's go look at it. Yeah, wow, it is actually on the daily, not looking good on the daily. On the intraday, looking pretty bad too. And man, yeah, it is selling off. If we start to fall below that low of yesterday around 443, even it'll look really bad. But we're just now falling below 444 today for the second time. So definitely look for it. I think it looks like it will keep going down to me. Man, it's actually moving right off of this 100 SMA to the downside. Every time the market usually falls intraday like this on the 1 minute, we usually come up and retest the 100 kind of like that and then start sliding off. So definitely eye it up today. We even did it yesterday. See how we came right back up, tested the 100, touched it, and then fell down. It looks like we're kind of like in that same area right now. So definitely keep your eye open for it. Hopefully we can go a little bit lower and retest 443 even from yesterday. But man, not looking good today. I know that news with Michael Burry still shorting Tesla and even adding to like ARK's position is like short ARK position and opening new positions like that. That's probably like bad news for investors too. Like I'm sure a lot of people look at that and they think, wow, he thinks the market's going to go down. I mean, man, maybe I better think it's going to go down too because he's been so spot on in the past about some of these predictions. And Kathy Wood says that Michael Burry doesn't understand the innovation space, but I don't know. It looks like what Michael Burry's been doing is awesome. You said he had some Walmart calls. That's been doing great. He's had some, you said Apple too, right? Google. Yeah. Google on the daily's been great. I mean, man, they're breaking all-time highs all the time and just running up while ARK and Tesla are getting down towards those like lows over the past couple of years. So seems like he does kind of know what he's talking about to me. And I hope, I hope he's right. But at the same time, I kind of hope he's wrong because I like Kathy Woods as a ARK ETF, ARKK, ARKX, especially the space one. I really love, but it's just a bad like sign for the overall market while we're talking about it. Because man, I'm sure a lot of people look at like his positions and start to really second guess themselves. And just looking at the market right now with all the news and everything, it's just one catalyst after the other. And there we go, Mike, finally below that low of day on the SPY. It looks like we might just continue to see this sell-off happen today.
Yeah, very interesting. I'm very curious to know like what strikes he has for his Tesla put position. I think it was like he said he had like 8,000 contracts, but I don't know. I don't think anyone ever found what strikes he has. So we'll see what happens there. And then we have James saying, "Hi guys, can you check up on eBay and cost?" So EBAY is down like 2% today. I can see this one falling a little bit more, to be honest. And then COST, I can also see this one falling because it kind of reminds me of that Target setup right now.
Yeah, it does actually almost remind me of Target, and it looks like it is coming down now after those earnings. And those earnings were having it really start to pop up, which was great. But I could see it start to come down here too, Mike. And man, it looks like it might come down and retest like $70 over the next couple of days. I would think it definitely is not out of the realm of possibility. But man, looking at it, just looking at it on the daily, just started to break out to new highs. So I think a lot of people were kind of looking for it to keep going up, but it looks like it's faking people out right now. And I'm with you, it looks pretty overextended. So I could see a fall back down too.
All right, and we have AJ saying scalped quick on AMC, made $35 from it. There we go, AJ. Love to see that. And then we have Chris saying, "Good morning. What are your thoughts on some of the drug companies like Moderna and Pfizer?" So with Moderna, I could definitely see it falling back down to like 325 or so over the next couple weeks. That doesn't mean today or tomorrow, but over the next couple weeks, I'm just kind of expecting kind of like exactly what we saw in the past with Moderna. It has a nice run up and it slowly fades off over the next weeks after that. But Pfizer, on the other hand, has a lot more momentum, and I've actually saw a lot of smart money going into longing Pfizer, unlike Moderna. So Moderna, I saw a lot of short calls, a lot of buying put spreads, but with Pfizer, Hunter actually pointed out a lot of plays that the smart money is getting into Pfizer on and just holding. So it's a lot of call debit spreads and calls and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm not surprised to see them going up either. They've been really flat for the past 7 years. I mean, let's go look at the max weekly. Yeah, you can see how long they were kind of in this range between $40 and $30 for almost ever since 2014, 2015. So I'm glad to see them kind of breaking out now. And they're actually breaking out to those all-time highs, getting up here towards $50. And I would think that they could keep going, but looking at it, $50 is going to probably be a pretty big psychological level. So just watch out for that maybe over the next couple of days. But I could definitely see it keep going too. The momentum's definitely there, but it just looks like another play where eventually it's going to start slowing down. And when it does, I would think that it would start to fall off, kind of like Moderna, Target, and a couple of the others. But the question is when. And there's a lot of different stuff with these vaccine companies. So it's not like we're talking about a Walmart or, something like that. This has a pretty big catalyst going into it.
Yep. And then we have Russell saying thoughts on UPST holding the September 3rd 170 puts. I have mixed feelings on this one because it has such good momentum basically every day, and it is getting pretty overbought. So I'll say this, I'm slightly bearish on UPST, but I don't like the puts you have because they're $30 out of the money and they expire in 17 days. So even if the stock falls, it can be pretty hard to profit from it. So I think that having that specific put option is not the best decision due to options pricing and then how far out of the money you are.
Yeah, and I don't know when you entered this exactly. If you would have entered it, if you would have entered it this morning or something, or maybe yesterday, at the highs, I think you're doing pretty good right now. Obviously it sold off yesterday pretty well. You'd still be above the level you got in at. Like Mike said, though, it will be a little hard to profit because the stock obviously has to go down, but I kind of like it. UPST is getting pretty overextended, I'd say, on the daily. I think it could start to go down, and obviously if it goes down soon, you'll be okay and you'll end up winning on it. But your strike is putting you in a little bit of a tough spot, because if it doesn't go down over the next couple days, your pricing is going to get all messed up. So hopefully you get some solid moves down, and we're going to have to break 190, it looks like, to the downside. But if we do, it looks like it might get a good move. So, it's a hard, kind of a hard scenario there for you, but that's just the way it is when you play those strikes that have those expirations that are, only 17 days away, like Mike said.
For sure. And then, I noticed that the 170 puts are, they cost around $550 or so. And like you can get like a put debit spread, like the 190 put and 175 put debit spread for like that same price. And then the break even is so much easier, and then you also fight time decay a little bit more too. So I would definitely like consider like a put debit spread. It'll definitely be a lot easier to profit. And then we have Hunter saying Home Depot spanked on earnings. Like, I know they've been selling off pretty big. You know, they're down like 5%. And, you know, it's definitely impacting like LOW, like you pointed out earlier, Tom.
Yeah, it really is. And all those like housing, not housing stocks, but like, housing repair stocks or like, like lumber stocks, you could almost say, are all falling today. It looks like, feel bad for Home Depot and Lowe's. Home Depot's down 5%. And the thing is that they actually reported like decent earnings. I'm actually going to bring it up here for everybody, but looks like it's even CNBC reports Home Depot shares tumbled despite earnings beat. Retailer rang up fewer customers as DIY trends weaken. So it looks like people are kind of like, not shopping for this stuff as much. But in the end, you can see that Home Depot's earnings per share, their EPS was actually pretty good, 4.53 versus a 4.44 expected. Their revenue beat by over like by about $500 million, 41.12 billion versus 40.79 billion expected. So not too bad, but it's bad news to hear that the DIY, home builder people are kind of like slowing down a little bit right now. But I guess that's expected because there was just such a big boom for a while. But definitely expect Home Depot, I'd say, to fall maybe in the short term. Looks like we have lower highs on the daily and just not a good sign right now.
All right. And then we have Jay saying Nvidia to the downside. So let's take a look. NVDA. Yeah, it's down like 2% today, and they have earnings very soon.
Yeah, they do. And, I would almost expect them to go up on earnings. Their earnings are generally pretty good. Nvidia is a pretty good company, but, you never know what they're going to talk about. They might say that they expect a slowdown over the next few months, which would obviously be terrible. Something could happen like Home Depot where they come out with good EPS numbers, good revenue, but then, say that something's slowing down, kind of like what happened with them. So it could end up happening, but I would say Nvidia looks to me, Mike, like it's going to be going down, at least heading into earnings. And then once earnings happen, personally, I would think it would make the stock go down, just given all the hype and everything that we've seen recently. But it's really hard to kind of guess these earnings. And it also is posting lower highs on the daily. So that really worries me also. But I would just say, looking at the stock, Mike, like I would expect a pullback over the next like couple weeks to few months. It's just like one of those tech stocks that lately has just been flying out of control. And, it did have a little bit of that pullback, but then we came right back up to all-time highs.
All righty. And then we have Spacely saying, started running the 60 strike calls on Pfizer yesterday, up 48%. The expiration date is 11/19. So I love how you have time on those options. That's going to be great for you. And especially if it continues up, you'll be in a good position. The only thing I'm worried about is because you're pretty far out of the money, but you have time, and that's awesome to see. So I really hope Pfizer keeps running up for you because it has a lot of momentum, and your play has a lot of potential.
Yeah, and if we break $50, I mean, who knows? There's like no higher levels in sight here, so we could obviously run up to 55 or 60. I think pretty easy if we can get above there, but we'll have to see, a lot of good movement out of Pfizer. Getting up to 60 would be pretty hard. I would say look more for like $55 if we can break 50. I think that would be awesome, but man, nice play. I'm glad you're already up 48%. That's an awesome thing. And, with the expiration being so far away, being November 19th, I mean, man, you're already up 48%. You have so much freedom with this play. You could do a lot of, you could turn this into a spread. There's a lot of different things you could do with this play.
All right. And then we have AJ saying KMB looks pretty good today. Thoughts? I like it. While everything else in the market is struggling or choppy or whatever, KMB's holding its ground very well, and it's looking very good. So I really like it. I think it looks pretty solid, but you just have to make sure that you get either a solid priced option, so you don't want to get anything really too far out of the money, preferably in the money, or two, maybe just get shares. But either way, I think it looks pretty good.
Yeah, really good. And I'll tell you what, that 130 support was so solid on KMB. We hit that, went up right off of that. but we are kind of at this resistance now around 140. But I'll be honest, we've retested it so much and we're bouncing off the 130 support. So I hope we can get a nice bounce up through this resistance. And it looks really good. There's a gap to kind of fill on the daily chart up to 150. And I'll be honest, we've been consolidating for so long that it's definitely towards the end of its consolidation range. And I would say that we're going to be breaking out pretty soon.
All right, we'll see. And then we have Dan saying AMC is the best stock to have. Well, I wouldn't say the best stock, but it's unique and it's popping up right now, so it's up 3%. Hopefully it continues up for you. Then Russ said Boeing tanked. It did tank. I'm actually probably going to sell some puts on this one sometime soon. It's down like 2% today, and I think it's looking pretty good, Tom, like for like a longer term play.
Yeah, it actually does look pretty decent. And 220 is a decent support for Boeing. Anywhere around 200 would be even better. But man, I'll be honest, it looks decent. Like you said, it's not a terrible time by any means. And looking on the daily, I had this bright blue trend line that looks like it's been holding up for the long term. We've had 3 solid bounces off of this level and looks like we're going to be getting closer to it again soon. So definitely eye it up. I think Boeing could be a good play, and that 220 support's going to be pretty big too. So just keep your eyes on it. I think it'll be a pretty big stock over the next couple of years, even though it might go down in the short term a little bit. Getting shares or getting some leaps on it, I think can go a long way. And looking at their earnings, this is awesome, guys. Like, look at this. Negative EPS after COVID, right? Negative $15 per share. Like, how bad can you get? Now they're all the way back to positive. So that's a great thing to see. They beat their last earnings, and I would expect them to kind of continue up. I think it's just the overall market movement kind of dragging them down right now. And just overall the movement with the airlines. Like, we've been seeing CCL, AAL, and all those other ones start to pull back over the past week. So I think once we start to see that sector get better, Boeing will start to go up again too. And I also like Lockheed Martin along with Boeing. I think they'll start to do good too. And looks like Lockheed's kind of bouncing off that small support around 350, 355 from yesterday.
For sure. So LMT and NOC are up a decent amount today. Like, nothing crazy, but they're holding their ground and they are trending to the upside. And I'm curious if they're running up on what everything's given everything that's happening in Afghanistan.
Yeah, I think that could definitely be having an impact on these stocks. And I know, like, my stepdad actually used to like work at Boeing, and he used to make the like F-16s, and then he worked for like their bomb department actually too. So like he made bombs and stuff. I didn't even know Boeing made bombs, but that's a cool thing to see. And I would think that they'd be doing better for the long term. NOC actually looks really great actually on the daily, Mike. I'm glad you brought this one up. Northrop's always been a great defensive stock, and they bouncing right off that 360 support and hitting the 100 SMA. And man, it looks pretty strong on the daily. Like, we might come up and retest at least like the resistance up here around 378 to 380 over the next few days.
All right, and then we have 11 saying, morning guys, a lot of volume on Wish. Yeah, I mean, it's a good amount of volume. It's up almost 2% today. I know the market has only been open for like 40 minutes or so, but yeah, I mean, it looks pretty decent, but nothing crazy overall. AJ said, will Pfizer break out? I mean, it's looking like it. It has so much momentum. It's up like 2% today, and there's just a ton of buyers coming into this one. I mean, look at this intraday chart, Tom. Like, these candles are crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. It just keeps breaking out to new highs, and definitely watch for $50. We're like right on it, like right as I speak, 49.98. Like right now, I would expect a little bit of resistance here, but man, on a daily level, it looks like it might keep going. Like, and they've been consolidating for a long time. Like, it's not like that they've been like it's their first day breaking out above $42. Like, man, like they've been trying for a long time. They've been flat for the past like 6-7 years almost. So I'm glad to see him kind of flying up like this. And I think it's just a great thing to see him finally breaking that previous all-time high from the early 2000s. And, they're really getting back up there. And can you imagine being a shareholder from the early 2000s, Mike? You're finally in the profit now.
Yeah, right. It's crazy to think. All right. And then we have Hunter saying LMND is still getting slapped around. Yeah, it's down like 5%, and we're getting really close to that $60 support.
Wow, I'm pretty surprised to see this one, Mike. Lots of people have been pretty positive, I should say, about Lemonade. Just a bad thing to see with this sell off the past few days. It's been off of my radar. I haven't been looking at it for the past few weeks or so, but I hope it can bounce off of $60. I think that'll be a good level to watch for it. Just really starting to sell off here in the short term, just looking pretty scary, but I hope it ends up bouncing.
All right. And then I'm just trying to see what else is moving. It looks like we're starting to see a shift, Tom. Like even stocks like Microsoft are, they're not tanking by any means, but there's definitely more sellers and buyers coming in, and like it tries to like show some good momentum, but it's not happening.
Yeah, it's not. And just looking at the daily, I mean, man, over the past like 5 years, like we were just looking at Pfizer's chart a minute ago, it looks so flat. And you go look at something like Microsoft, Apple, Tesla, or anything like that, and you can just see the extensive growth out of the tech sector. And man, I would honestly expect a big pullback sometime soon. And you know what? We're honestly right around that big $300 level on Microsoft. So maybe that'll be the big top up here, somewhere close to it, anyways. And man, just looking at it, pretty bad day so far today. I don't like how it fell through that support level around 292. I thought maybe we'd hold that considering we bounced off of there a few times a couple days ago. But just looking at it right now, not looking good intraday. And I would expect more downwards movement possibly maybe today, or even like heading in, even if we get like more green movement today, as long as we don't break that all-time high, I think we could be looking at possibly maybe another like bad move at open tomorrow or something very similar with all the stuff going on. And just watch the QQQ really close because they've been having a lot of problems, kind of like the SPY. The QQQ is actually red 1%. So I would expect a lot of these other stocks to kind of follow suit.
All right. And then we have Hayden saying, still feeling good about DraftKings, question mark. So if this is like for like the long term, absolutely. This is one of my favorite stocks for the long term. It sucks to see a rejection off that $55 resistance level. So yeah, that sucks. But basically everything's falling in the market right now. While other stocks are down 5%, 6%, 4% even. DraftKings is holding its ground. It's down less than 3%, and it still has a ton of good news going for it. So if your question's for the long term, then absolutely. But Tom, what are you thinking about it for the short term?
Yeah, for the short term, it was just unfortunate. We hit off of that $55 resistance and we just kind of failed to break out of there. Kind of had a double top up there too. So, it's not too totally unexpected to see it move off there. Pretty big technical level. I will say though, we're holding the $50 support pretty well. If we hold that, it'll go pretty well, I think. Also, if we hold the 1,000 SMA, I think we might get another move back up. Follow this red line actually on my chart. We bounced off of it quite a few times as we've been consolidating, and we've ended up going back up off of it. And we're getting pretty close to it right now intraday. So hopefully we can hit this and get back up. I really like DraftKings. I'm pretty biased towards them actually. So just looking at it though, I like it. I think for the long term, it'll end up going up. Hopefully some big buyers and stuff start to come in. I know Kathy Wood was buying some shares a few weeks ago, and I hope I hope some more buyers are coming into it. Hopefully like how Michael Burry's predicting a lot of these stocks end up falling. Hopefully DraftKings is not thrown into that pile of stocks because man, it's if I hear that, if I hear he's shorting DraftKings, I'll be really worried.
Yeah, I mean, because here, let me pull up the like distribution of the ARK fund real quick. The last I checked, DraftKings only has like a 2% weighting in the ARK fund, so that's good to know. Here, I have it pulled up right here. All right, perfect. DraftKings has a 2.27% weighting in ARKK. So I don't think he's really targeting that because then it wouldn't even make sense to short the ARK fund. But some of the highest or the heaviest weights in that ARKK fund, we have Tesla, TDOC, Roku, Coin, Zoom, which is a little bit worrying for me, Square, Shopify, Twilio, Spotify, even Palantir. So, but Palantir only has like a 2.97% weighting. So it looks like the main ones are Tesla, Teladoc, Roku, and then Coin. So those are like the ones to avoid if you trust Burry.
Man, and look at Teladoc on the daily chart, Mike. I mean, Man, it's retested this support down here around $130 like 3 or 4 times now. And it looks like we're finally going to be falling below there if we get this, if we see another move back down below there. I mean, man, that's going to be terrible for them. Definitely be a bad break of support. And man, that would man, that could drag that ARC fund down pretty hard, actually. I'm surprised to see Teledoc down as much as they are. That's pretty surprising to see that, actually. And man, like looking at Roku, even they've been going down a lot. And I know we were looking at for Roku to possibly bounce off this 350 support, but I think the main thing he's going to be going after in there is like Tesla and stuff like that. But overall, I mean, it just scares me because if like a few of those stocks start going down, I really hope that it just doesn't start dragging a lot of them down, because sometimes when those growth stocks start to move, they all just move at the same time.
Yeah, no doubt. So, Tom, what are you thinking with Target? I don't want to jinx it, but it's looking pretty good to the downside.
It is actually, Mike. It's falling back below 260. That's a pretty bad move actually today. I mean, man, that's pretty bad. Actually, my Thinkorswim is actually taking a few seconds to load here. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I could hear you. My Thinkorswim's fine, so I wonder if it's just like a glitch or something.
Yeah, that's pretty strange, but hopefully it gets going again. But man, Target's chart on the daily was looking pretty bad. I will say not good moves intraday today. And I know that they have a lot of stuff coming up. I think earnings are coming up this week, aren't they, Mike?
Yes, they're actually tomorrow, I believe. Let me just double check it real quick. Yeah, hold on. Give me a second. All right, yeah, looks like earnings are tomorrow before market open. So we're in for a pretty big move.
Yeah, we are actually, and it looks like some of their previous revenue numbers from this year looked look pretty good, I will say. Like for example, like they beat like by 9.2% on their revenue last time, I think. So definitely will be interesting to see like how it ends up going this time. The quarterly financials here from April of 2021, let's check it out. Yeah, these are actually pretty good financials out of Target. Not surprised to see them going up 23% year over year revenue. That's great. The net income is up 638%. I don't know what's up with some of those numbers, but man, they sound pretty good, at least in April. So hopefully they can kind of keep up that momentum. I know that Target's been really good with their earnings the past few times. So hopefully it can kind of get going. And man, I clicked the chart and now it's loading again. So looks like I messed it up. But man, is it just me, or like I must be because I'm lagging, but my watch list is just going crazy right now.
Yeah, I think it's just because you're lagging.
Okay, yeah, stocks are just jumping all over the place, but here we go. Target's back up on the daily. You can see the last time they reported those earnings, they ended up having a pretty good pretty good green days right after that, but the time they reported before that, they actually had a pretty bad red day. So obviously anything can happen, but I would say with them being overextended and everything and being up as much as they are, it's going to be really hard for the earnings to be good enough to justify the stock going up. So personally, I think the stock's just going to go down. But anything can happen with earnings. If those numbers come out and they end up being great, Target will pop. But in the end, it's going to be hard to keep up with this momentum.
Absolutely. And then we have Mike saying Moderna is flying. Yes, it is. It's up like 6% or so, and it's really starting to run with Pfizer.
Yeah, it is actually. Moderna has a big green day on the daily chart, up 6%. Like you said, that's pretty big. Do you think they'll be able to get back above 400 today? I don't know. I think that'll be pretty hard, but yeah, I mean, just really hard to say, Mike. I mean, $400 seems like it'll be a pretty big level. I have a weird feeling we might hit that and then go down or something like that today, but nobody knows. It has a lot of momentum. It could go right through.
We shall see. So, Tom, do you have any last-minute stocks or anything you're watching for the rest of the day?
Man, I mean, still eyeing up a couple of these stocks that were kind of, greener this morning. I know like AT&T's just been kind of just consolidating around their levels. They actually look pretty good on the daily. Like they might start to get a pop back up off this $28 support. For a longer term stock, this could be pretty good. They pay a good dividend too. Selling puts, getting shares, or even like long-term leaps on them, I think would be fantastic. I know we've had a play for quite a while on them, so hopefully it ends up getting up there. Looks pretty decent today, but man, the ones that are like pretty worrisome to me today are some of these Chinese stocks. And then I've really been eyeing up these stocks lately, like ChargePoint, BLNK, some of these like EV charging stocks, and with the infrastructure bill starting to get passed and everything, people were hyping these stocks up quite a bit, hoping that they'd be going up. And it's just a pretty unfortunate thing to see like all these EV stocks like NIO, Tesla, and then all of their like smaller counterparts, like these charging stocks all falling. It's just a pretty bad day, pretty bad, past week for these growth stocks. And hopefully it doesn't keep continuing. But man, it creates more opportunities. But I hate to see these EV charging stocks keep going down.
You know it. So thank you guys so much for joining the stream today. We're in for a very interesting week in the market. Lots of movement, lots of catalysts. So definitely be prepared. And thank you guys so much for joining the stream. We hope you have an amazing day.